Thank you, Dr. Frankel. Thank you, Mark. I want to welcome everyone to this festive occasion and recognize the folks, in addition to our seniors sitting on the stage, Dr. Frankel, Mr. Ehrenbaum, and Mr. Crane, families, friends, and of course, dear seniors, soon-to-be graduates. I wanted to mention firstly that I'm always a little bit shocked, given that Dr. Frankel and I never share our speeches, and I always go after him, that we don't end up with a very similar speech. So it didn't happen this time either, which is always a pleasant surprise. But there are some themes that definitely connect. And so I want to say that the topic of my particular address is a bit nostalgic. And it came about because I asked my daughter what she thought I should speak about. And she said, you know, I think you should say something personal about yourself. So I'm going to try to do that without giving away too much. And I started this speech, writing this speech a few weeks ago. I was sitting at the window in my home, and it was a beautiful day. The sky was blue, birds were chirping, crows were squawking and building their nests. And really it was an idyllic day, and our daughter Emma, who is graduating as well as the daughters of Mr. Ehrenbaum and Dr. Frankel, was in her room studying for the IB exams, as all of our seniors know very well. And my wife and I, Marianne, were considering the next stages in our lives, the next stage in our lives. In a few months, the youngest of our two children would be on her way to begin a new life. And our world as we have known it for 2 decades would suddenly change forever. So like many of you, we will shortly find ourselves experiencing what is whimsically called the empty nest. And psychology today tells us, and I'm certain that Mr. Crane will verify, he's shaking his head, but he doesn't know what I'm about to say, that the so-called empty nest syndrome is in fact not a clinical diagnosis. Thank you, Mr. Crane. But it is a term which aptly describes, and I quote, a transition period in which many people experience feelings of loneliness or loss. While many parents encourage their children to become independent adults, the experience of sending children off into the world, it can be a painful one, unquote. I was speaking to a colleague the other day when we were talking about the empty nest, and she said, or it's a second honeymoon, something else to consider. So I address you today not only as the director making his annual graduation speech, but like many of you as a parent about to send a child off to a new life. Thoughts of our children leaving home have brought me to memories of my own youth. And my thoughts transport me back to when I was 18 years old, many, many years ago. I think the automobile had just been invented. No, it was actually the 1970s, and it was such a different world. The war in Vietnam was still raging, and the youth counterculture was still in full swing. Imagine I had very long curly hair. Really, truly. I wore beads, wore bell bottoms, I had a flowing, colorful shirt. Trying to picture that, I know it's not so easy. Talk to me later, I have some pictures. And I played the guitar, and that is something I still do. I've dropped the rest. Anyway, I will spare you the details, but I will tell you that I left home honestly with little clue of what I might be doing for the rest of my life. I had dreams, of course, but there wasn't much of a plan. And the idea that I would be an educator never dawned on me. However, I can remember some experiences. I remember the exhilarating feeling of freedom combined with the dread of the unknown. Another powerful memory was the newness of everything around me. Even though I was still living in New York City, it felt like I was seeing the world for the first time. as if I was looking through a brand new lens. Each new person I encountered, each new place I saw, every moment seemed to belong to me in a new way. And how I chose to engage with each experience was up to me. My opinion about any topic, whether it be music or politics, seemed to take on greater importance, at least it did to me. And suddenly, many of the day-to-day chores and decisions and obligations that were taken care of for me, washing up, preparing meals, cleaning the house, getting a haircut, they were suddenly solely mine to take. In my case, I started to work right away, and I had lots of different jobs, as my family can attest. I drove a taxi in New York, I was a dishwasher, I was a deckhand on a tugboat, and worked in oil tankers, I pumped gas, I was a chef, I owned my own business, and there are lots more of those kinds of jobs. But somehow, eventually, I found my way to teaching and to education. And it's been the main focus and my main passion for the past 30 years or more. And I can assure you that I'm very lucky to say that I love what I do. But it certainly wasn't part of some grand plan. Looking back on that scruffy and lanky 18-year-old, full of wonder, anticipation, and trepidation, I can only imagine how baffled my younger self would be. Picture that younger self with the long hair and the whole get-up. To see me now standing here on stage in Prague in this grand and ornate, beautiful room, Zofin Palace. My daughter, our children, our graduates, sitting here right now, anxiously awaiting what comes next, filled with their own wonder, anticipation, and trepidation. Where and who will they be in 10, 20, 30, or more years? While no one can predict the future, I do, of course, have one piece of advice. After all, this is a graduation ceremony. And it comes from a song that I heard way back when I was your age. And I'm not going to sing it, you'll be happy to hear, but I will read to you one stanza. Come writers and critics who prophesize with your pen, and keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin, and there's no telling who that it's namin'. For the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a-changin'. And I'm sure many of you recognize that line from Bob Dylan's The Times They Are A-Changin'. And I believe there are words that still resonate and also carry a message for our graduates. Keep your eyes open to new ideas, new experiences, new people, new places, and new opportunities. They will take you on a journey to your future. And while a plan or a direction is important, don't think you can or need to nail it down. There will be many unplanned twists and turns, which will take you on new paths, like the song the choir sings, The Road Not Taken. Or as another troubadour of my time, John Lennon sang to his young son, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. So what will your journey be? How many twists and turns will your paths take? Whom will you encounter along the way? And how will you be changed by what happens to you? These are questions that can only be answered when you, many years from now, are also looking back on your life. The life that you have lived, and you wonder what your younger self would think of what you have become. Or, as the Robert Frost poem says, which will be sung by the choir, I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. With that, I say congratulations to us all, and congratulations to our graduates. We are very, very proud of you all. Thank you.